Desi Valentine, welcome.
Thank you, my man. Thank you so much.
You know what I just realized yesterday? That we're recording this in advance of when it'll come out. Yesterday was Valentine's Day, and you're Desi Valentine.
Yes, sir. It was my namesake day.
Yep.
Always feels very, very special and yummy. I'm a puddle of love anyway, throughout every aspect of my life. So it's another day to celebrate that.
Yeah, I love that. That's so true. You are such a puddle of love, and you do put a lot of love into all the different work that you do, from the music that you release, which is, you have a beautiful voice, beautiful music, all the way to, the healing, the shamanic space holding and healing work that you do, as well as your product line, DV Elemental, which we were just talking before we press record. I have one of your sprays. What kind of spray is it? Which one do I have?
You have the Aura Cleansing Moon Spray. So it's a crystal tonic blessed under a full moon. It's got all of the yummy essential oils. It's got the energy and frequency of the crystals, like built into and soaked into the water, and a powerful blessing with intention. And just, yeah, it's one of the most beautiful things I think I've ever created in my life, truly.
It's so good. It's so much better than anyone can eat. Anyone who's listening to this, it's better than you think it is. It's better than you could think it is. And because I've used so many different aura sprays and stuff like that. And I think it's great. And I like it. I like all the different stuff. I'm into it. I'm into that whole universe. Because I think smell, we of course know scientifically that smell is deeply connected to memory.
Mm. Yes.
So if you're being really intentional, setting intentions, studying, praying, anything like that, and you introduce a special fragrance to it, that fragrance almost like activates, charges, empowers, whatever that is. Think about I'll always remember the smell of my grandma's perfume. She wore
Yes.
Paris. It was like, I think it was like YSL Paris, something like that. I don't know. I literally don't know. But she wore that, and anytime I smell it, like if I'm at a department store or something, I notice it, I immediately remember her. So if you're setting an intention or doing a blessing of some kind, and really focusing and meditating on it, and using a special fragrance, that fragrance, you can actually connect to that thing that you're trying to create or manifest or become. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
that's how I used it, and I love it. And it actually, this is so weird. I'm not going to explain how I discovered this, but it tastes good. Why does it taste good?
So it has, it does taste really good. It has organic glycerin in it. So that's part of the recipe in itself. It stabilizes the recipe, and it tastes delicious too.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's something that I kind of discovered along the way too, because I originally created the product to take care of my own energy, to take care of my preservation, doing this transformational work, this shamanic work, and just the volume of it. And as soon as I started using it with clients, they were like, I need the moon spray. Give me the moon spray thing. Like, I need that. So everything that you said about the imprint of the smell in itself, and ultimately the whole line was created to turn self-care into ceremony, to make a ceremony of it. So scent and smell in that respect is definitely really powerful. And every time that you smell that, you're reminded that you're advocating for yourself, that you're taking care of yourself. And it ultimately doesn't have to be difficult. It can be as simple as a few breaths and just misting yourself down, taking a few moments, and then going about your day.
I love that so much. A lot of times people have a hard time getting a spiritual practice in, or they, they're not feeling connected to the religion they were raised in, but they don't really have a new spiritual practice. And and so there's a lot of times maybe like a confusion about what your self-care should look like, especially when it comes to the spiritual component of it or the mental health component of it. Even there's a lot of different things that we know you can do or should do or whatever, but it can be really hard to know exactly what's right for you, And so I always say, which is so exactly in resonance with what you're saying, it's making I always call it metaphysical self-care. And I love what you said, self-care as ceremony. It's like taking your shower and just really, really knowing the products that you're using in the shower, having good quality soaps that are like good herbal soaps that are good for you, that are made of things that are good for you, that you love the smell of, and allow the shower to be your meditation, releasing the past down into the drain, like letting it cleanse you emotionally, letting it cleanse your frustrations and whatever else you want to like let down the drain and let go of, And so I love what you're saying, self-care is ceremony. And what other things do you have? I'm not that familiar with the line. So you have the aura spray, the aura moon spray, aura cleansing moon spray.
That's the one, aura cleansing moon spray.
And I can say that's so good. It's delicious. I love the energy of it. And it's just like it's like perfectly warm, and also kind of has a spice to it and has also like a sweetness to it. It's like a really good heart centering, beautiful spray. What kind of other things you create? Because if that's what you create, I want that in everything. I want it like in bath salts and candles and everything. What other kinds of things do you create?
So in the line we have the Dream Aura Spray as well, which is all of the sleep enhancing natural essential oils. Once again, a powerful blessing, bringing everything together. We have the energy cleansing salt scrub. So have this delicious, like absolutely, like that's one of the things in my life that I'm like, God is good, y'all. Like it's just like, like to scrub your body with this salt scrub is like one of the best things ever. And the final product is actually the healing bundle, which is like a whole self-care ceremony kit. So it's got the 2 sprays, the scrub, it has a piece of rose quartz, it has a piece of Palo Santo, a piece of sage, and a guided meditation, a 22-minute guided meditation by me that will take you through how to use each product and actually guide you through some breath and meditation. So you have kind of like a complete package that's there with that. So if you really don't know where to start, this is the perfect thing to start with. It's like, okay, just all you have to do is follow the instructions, listen to the meditation, and that's it. Like just add water and stir, and that's it. So they're the 4 products that we have.
Love that so much. So how did you get into this work? How did you start to create these kinds of things?
So originally, my story began, I'll kind of rewind back. My story began when I was 10 years old. And when I was told that magic didn't exist, I knew on a soul level that wasn't true. Like I knew it. This is not my first time around. So I actually went to the Yellow Pages like a 10-year-old would do and looked up magic. I was like, okay, let me find magic. And I found a metaphysical supply store, magic store, one of the, they're very popular these days, like a, crystal shop, this kind of thing. But back then, this is almost 30 years ago. So it's like it was not a popular thing. So I found it. It was called Mysteries in Covent Garden in London. and I went. I was like, I'm gonna go. And when I arrived there, I had all of these crystals and candles and amulets and Buddhas and these kind of water features and all these interesting books and interesting people. And I was like, I knew it. I knew that magic existed, and this is what it looks like in these days. So I began to really study different forms of magic. So studying Wiccanism, predominantly Wiccan magic, and understanding that the natural deriving elements that we have in our lives, you know, the sun, the moon, the earth, the soil, the wind, the air, all of these things, they have a power and a magic and an energy to them. And you can plug into these things and create blessings in your life. You can heal, you can transform, you can bring peace and balance, harmony into your mind, into your life, into your family's lives. So I became really fascinated with that and understood the side of mysticism from the outside. I was like, okay, I'm understanding that there is so much available here. So I had already been practicing magic since I was 10, all the way kind of through. And that really felt like home for me. Really, really, really felt like home. I was an odd child in a lot of ways. And in that, I felt very, very safe and very, very connected. So that was kind of like my beginning of all of that, and started working with crystals and oils and things and understanding what they are.
Yeah, you clearly have a gift with it, because you have like a knack for it or whatever, because the combination of oils and everything that goes into your sprays, it's not the usual combination. It's very much like it's like connoisseur level. You know, when you go to a wine tasting, someone who really knows what it means to have like really good wine, they're going to take a sip of whatever they're drinking, and they're going to notice whether it's good or not. And they're going to have all kinds of nuances and notes and everything that they're going to pick up on. And so for me, I also, I relate a lot to being, you know, involved in magic since I was a little kid. I was exploring so much, especially the things I was told to not explore. And so I can tell, you know, you really have a really good nose. You know, you have a lot of experience with it because it's so good, you know. And we're not even like, that's the thing is like, that's just one of the many things that you do with your career. And that's what's, you know, really special. You know, you can see when someone's really engaged in their creativity and they're really putting a lot of love into something, you see like beautiful creations come out, like, you know, like your sprays. But also, I want to talk a little bit about your music. You're a very talented musician. You have music that's available out in the world everywhere, Spotify and all that, to listen to. What's your journey like when it comes to the music right now? Is that a focus for you?
It's interesting because I have been through a real journey when it comes to the music. I had been making music for 16 or 17 years, but I had performed since I was a very young boy as well. So just singing, dancing, entertainment, acting, all of these things, I'd been doing it for a very long time. And I have been really, really blessed and fortunate to have beautiful success in music, but I experienced extreme burnout at the end of 2019. And ultimately, it forced me to a point where I needed to take a huge step back from music and ultimately really heal myself. I had major vocal damage and vocal issues. And the sheer level of pressure that I had put on myself and that the music industry really has as a kind of a lifeblood, like even people that are the most famous, most successful artists in the world still have these same pressures within themselves.
Right.
You're only as good as the next single, you're only as good as the next album that you put on and the next tour that you do. So ultimately it took its toll on me.
Right.
So I needed to take a very, 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 very necessary and nourishing time and a big step back and let the healing arts and my own personal trauma healing, my own personal development, and me ultimately stepping into a deeper sense of purpose with helping and healing, guiding others. So ultimately, as I was healing others, I was able to heal myself. And now music is coming back into my life in a really beautiful way, that I'm not bullied by the ideas of the industry. I'm not bullied by my own inner pressures of what it was to be super successful or super, impressive, as it were. And now I just get to emote and create from a place that's just truly of healing. I want the music to just reach people that need it. And even if it's one person, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to create something that is going to bring light and blessing into somebody's life using my voice and these gifts.
So if there was one song, like someone who's listening to this wants to get a dose of your magic through your music, what's one song that would be the top song to recommend?
I would say the song "Fate Don't Know You." That's my big juicy song. I've been really, really fortunate that that song changed my life in the most radical and powerful ways. I was lucky enough to have it be the closing montage of the TV show Suits, the season finale of Suits. So just so happened to be at the time that Meghan Markle had just started dating Prince Harry. So the show in itself was getting all of this exposure. So in turn, the song became synonymous with that show and that moment. And it really captures so much of the essence of who I am, that ultimately that belief and faith is the most powerful thing. That's the through line of the song. And so that would be the song I would recommend.
Love that. And that's, of course, everywhere, Spotify and Apple Music and all that.
Yes, anywhere that there's music, it's there.
Have you, speaking of Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, I like them. Have you seen their new docuseries?
I actually haven't, and I've been meaning to, but I'm not a hugely political person generally. I find that
it's funny. I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's
please.
Funny as an American. It's funny to see that as political, even though I know intellectually that it is political, but it's the royal family is sort of separate from the actual political side of government,
Yes. Obviously, they're very closely interlinked, interweaved, right. But there's a side of it that's salacious. Right. It's very engaging, and it has this kind of salacious, gossipy kind of vibe to it too that doesn't always feel like it's political. Right. But of course, it's affecting the world stage when it comes to politics as well, like how we're viewed as a country, as a nation in that.
Yeah, it's definitely putting a Well, it's interesting. I've had my little moments of press, good press and not so good press, nowhere near the level that uh that Meghan and Harry were experiencing, do experience, will probably always experience. Nowhere near any of that. But the little bursts of press and publicity that I have experienced have exposed me to, whether it's about me or someone close to me, a friend or a client, I've been exposed and close into some of the intensity of those moments. Some of the clients that I'm most hands-on with are very well-known celebrities who've experienced scandals and challenges in the media and the press with other public figures and things like that. And it's always extremely intense.
Mm.
And I appreciate, I have a lot of grace for people who are public figures. I believe most people, for the most part, are trying to do the right thing. Like on a soul level, my heart believes that and wants to believe that. And I thought it was good that Harry and Meghan wanted to explain themselves, and hopefully the communications with their family and everything can go well,
Mm.
but yeah, I actually just watched that show. I hadn't ever seen Suits, but I remember hearing that your song was in the season finale of Suits, and also hearing that Meghan Markle, the actress, was now in a relationship and ultimately going to marry the prince, and the rest is history, literally. So
Yeah.
but yeah, congratulations. I mean, what an iconic place to have such an important song.
Yeah. I still pinch myself, truly, that how it all went down. And the interesting thing was, at the time, I had just come off of opening up for Blondie on their
Wow.
their tour, their amphitheater cross country tour.
Wow.
And I was so stressed out. Like, I had I literally had like no money. Like, I was a bartender at the time. So I was like, my bartending job just closed randomly, and then I didn't have any, and then I booked this big tour. But when you're starting out, when you're the opener, you're not making loads of money to do it. And I'm paying like a incredible professional band to come and travel around the country with me and all of these things. And other people's welfare, like me, I'm like, okay, I'll figure it out. But I've got these people that are coming on the road with me. I want to make sure that they're taken care of. My management at the time were dealing with the band Cheat Codes and their huge explosion into like massive fame. So they really just couldn't really look at me. That was like, okay. So all that to say, I got the news that it was going to be the season finale of Suits. And I was like, I kind of didn't even I was like, okay, great. Like, whatever, just kind of carried on with it. I'm on stage. I'm talking with Debbie Harry, all of these beautiful, incredible things, but so overwhelming at the time. And then I was working for Uber at the time. So when I finished the tour, come back to LA, I'm Ubering, I have a client in the back, and on the radio comes a Blondie song. And I'm literally like, I go to turn around and tell the person it's in the back of my car that I'm like, I literally was yesterday on stage with this person having a conversation with Debbie Harry. She was complimenting me on my performance and I turned around and I was like, what's the point of doing that? Like,
Right.
they're probably not going to believe you. It's like,
well, I think it's incredible. I think it's incredible that you're such a hard worker, that you're willing to, get it done and do whatever you need to do in order to, create and be the artist that you are and the healing artist that you are. I'd love to know more about the work that you do as a healer.
Absolutely. So I predominantly work in the shamanic healing space. So for those of you that don't know what that is, that's creating a sacred space to work with plant medicine. Predominantly, I work with psilocybin, mushrooms, sacred mushroom medicine. I also work with some other medicines as well in the space, but ultimately, the shamanic work is creating a safe and loving place to go and truly work through energetic blockages, can be emotional components. I work with a lot of people with complex PTSD and deep trauma response that continues to live on in their bodies, mood disorders, depression, anxiety, addiction, and really ultimately be able to go to the places that the mind has deemed unsafe to really go, and go to those places and be able to witness the places that you've experienced trauma and not be consumed by it, not be traumatized by the witnessing of what it was. And I work with breath work. I'm a breathwork facilitator. I use body work and somatic release work. And I'm working with pranic healing and elemental healing technique, which is working with the elements and bringing them into the energetic field. I work with my voice and use sonic frequencies to also help move the energy and the congestion through the system, and bring some much needed release and relief.
So
yes.
So a lot of what you're saying is like really based on this understanding that we hold our traumas and our fears and our pain in our bodies.
Absolutely.
And our physical body and our energy body.
Yes.
And I love the way you describe that, because holding the space for someone to go through, nothing, even though the world is so different with technology and all of the results of technology, these emotional things that we go through, our ancestors went through them. These are things that people have been going through for a very, very long time. And it's something that our biology and our physiology have a way, and our psychology have a way of naturally working with them. And so that's what I think is so important about holding the space, especially when working with some of these natural medicines like psilocybin and the other medicines that you might work with, engaging with our own psyches. And then pairing that with the somatic work, all of the different kinds of somatic work. I consider sound healing and basically a form of somatic healing work,
Absolutely that. Absolutely that.
How do you see that, and what kind of things do you do with the somatic work?
So in particular, like the actual physical release work, and I loved what you shared as well, of like really making mention of that we hold so much of this in our bodies and in our systems. And one piece I would love to definitely make mention of is just having compassion for the humanity of us, having compassion for the fact that, yes, all of us have our emotions. All of us have experienced some level of trauma, but it could be something silly in the playground, or something light in the playground, or you deemed as silly in the playground, or it could be something that is a lot more complex and ongoing. But we're human. We have these things, and providing that safe place for the body to decompress and actually notice where you're contracting, notice where you are holding that, and giving the body the permission to really let that go. So I do the physical body work as well, and energetically able to move energy and working with the client, giving them vocal commands and things to say, to repeat, to give themselves the permission to let it go, give themselves the permission to truly release it. And we together are able to move that out of the system and bring peace and balance into the body with that. I also work with crystals, and I work with my products as well, and other essential oils. So really, really, really supported with the tools that I have access to.
What kinds of things would you recommend for somebody wanting to have some kind of healing or somatic release? Maybe they feel tension in their body, or they feel some kind of breakthrough. What's something like at home or in someone's daily life? What's like a general tip that you can provide in that way?
Breath of all of the medicines and all of the journeys and all of the things that I've learned and I have at my disposal. Breath is still the most powerful. It is life force. It is vitality. It is literally the component that keeps us alive. So being able to start to understand the breath and use breath to regulate the nervous system, being able to identify in moments when you have stress or high tension in the body, and be able to take just a few simple breaths and understand that you can create a change of state, a change of mindset in that time. These things are like the most important and accessible, free things that you can do, that anybody can do.
Okay, so
everybody has access to that.
So let's talk about the breath for a second. How are we supposed to be breathing?
So with the intentionality of breath, so that a huge part of all of this medicine work and intentional work is intention. So being able to set an intention with the body as to what it is you would desire to feel. I'm feeling stressed. I'm feeling panicked in this moment. My intention is to feel calm. My intention is to feel rested and smooth in my relationship to my body. So taking breaths in through the nose releases endorphins in the mind that actually tell our bodies to calm down, to actually relax. So big, deep, slow breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth. Another really incredible way is to breathe into the heart. So to focus on your heartbeat, you can use your hands, just feel the beat of your heart and breathe in through your nose directly into where it feels like it should be, your higher heart chakra, which is right where the sternum is. Like even 3 of those kind of intentional breaths, I think people would be shocked at how powerful a transformation or how much of a state change can occur in just that short time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so good and so true. And I think a lot of times when we just bring our awareness into our breath, like you're describing, we start to realize that we haven't been breathing, or we've been breathing like these really, really shallow breaths.
Yes. Yes.
Sometimes I check in with my breath and I realize, like, how many seconds was I just holding my breath just now?
Yeah.
And then another really good thing, in addition to that, really so important, that intentionality and just programming that inhale with like what you're wanting to create, in the state that you want to be in, like you're describing so beautifully. It's like also allowing every exhale to bring that relief. It's like almost like that, just that intentional inhale, and then that exhale that allows relief to just boom settle through the body. Even sighing out loud, like
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And even humming is another really beautiful way to soothe the system.
Right.
And these little practices, they're just bringing you into actually working with your body, like working in harmony with your body. Because believe it or not, our bodies are, they want to work with us. They want to
Right.
feel good. They want to function well. They want to have energy. They want to have all of these things. So it's ultimately when we get out of communication with our bodies is when the real trouble starts to come. So we're ultimately not in the listening of what the body actually needs. Yes, it needs slow, intentional breaths. It needs the permission slip to slow down and be present in the moment with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's so interesting because also sometimes we need the exact opposite too. Sometimes
Absolutely.
we need that more active breath work, just like we need deep relaxation, we need deep sleep, we need deep meditation. We also need cardio. We need
Oh yeah.
forms of physical activity, and that's another great um, thing that we can do with the breath. We can actually do different kinds of, you work with like holotropic breath work?
Absolutely. Yes.
Tell us a little bit about pranayama, breath control, breath work.
So when it comes to that kind of more vigorous breath, for those of you out there that haven't done this kind of thing, we're ultimately this time we're predominantly breathing in through the mouth and out through the mouth. And we are on purpose activating and stimulating the fight or flight response in our systems. But once again, bringing ourselves into right relationship with that. So understanding that just because the intensity has come up in the system does not mean that you need to be panicked, does not mean that you need to be in a place of freaking out. You're still safe. You're still held, you're still loved, and you're still listening to what the body is saying. So you're ultimately creating new neuro pathways in communication with the body by going into these very heightened states of breath where you really are, which would be hyperventilating in another situation. But
Mm-hmm.
we go intentionally into those situations and reframe the relationship between the breath and the body with that in mind. So when you have stress at work or you have 20 different things that you're supposed to do and you're late for 5 of them all at the same time, you have that same response, that same fight or flight response, which is ultimately saying that you're unsafe, ultimately
Mm-hmm.
saying that something is not right.
Mm-hmm.
When you have been able to go into these powerful breath spaces and you have it mirrored in your everyday life, you are able to compose yourself in a way that you would never have been able to in the past because you have a new relationship with your nervous system. You have a
Mm-hmm.
new sense of communication with that. So it's incredible.
Well, I've got a question about that. If someone is curious about that more rigorous breath work to like clear anxiety, or what would you recommend? What's like a good resource? Do you have any breathwork resources?
So I'm actually about to release my self-care ceremony guide that's going to be released on March 1st. And that is a step-by-step 7-day guide that's going to take people through breathwork, meditation, mindfulness, some emotional freedom technique, which is the tapping technique,
Mm-hmm.
some neurofeedback exercises, but just ultimately giving people like a really comprehensive and introduce like an introductory invitation into this type of self-care.
Incredible. Okay, cool. I'll make sure to put the link to that in the show notes.
Please, absolutely.
Yeah, that's great. I'll put your Spotify in there too, to the song Fate Don't Know You, right?
That's the one. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, this has been amazing. I love the work that you're doing. You bring such good energy everywhere you go. You put so much love into everything that you create. So thank you for doing all of that. And let's do this again.
I would love it. Thank you so much for having me. Just love you and all the things that you do too.
Yeah. So where can we find you?
So if you want to find me on Instagram, it's just at Desi Valentine. We've got the link to my website for my personal services in the show notes as well. And then, as I say, like on Spotify, you can find my music. And dvelemental.com is my product line as well for my products. And you can find me on TikTok, on Facebook, and all of those things as well. Just Desi Valentine.
Incredible. Thanks so much, bro.
Thank you so much. Blessings.
Blessings. Bye.